Hello, welcome to Waiting for Game, the Melee Stats Weekly podcast. I appreciate this. We took a couple weeks off and we have refreshed, and I think we're ready to come back for possibly our greatest episode ever. I am Gimme That Wheat. I am a tournament seeder. I am on the administrative team for the MPGR Top 100. And dude, do we have a panel this week? I don't think it's crazy to say that we have probably one of the greatest Marths ever, one of the most cerebral Marth players ever, and also one of the greatest players to ever main a green Spacies. And of course, I'm talking about Edwin Budding, the Marth player, and Ambi Sinister, the Fox. And also, we have this guy who I think he's on Golden something or other. We have PPMD. What is going on, everyone?
What's up?
I'm so excited for you to be here. I think we're going to have a great episode.
I think it's going to be good. I like I was saying before we got started, I love what you guys do. I think you guys fill such an important niche for Melee. So glad to be able to do something for you guys.
Hell yeah, dude! I distinctly remember watching Apex 2015 at 3 a.m. or whatever it was on a call with one of my friends because we were so excited to watch your amazing run, and here we are. Obviously, this is the low point of your career in being on our show. No one wants to be on Waiting for Game, but such a high point you've had with Apex 2015. But I think a high point for the Golden Guardians like staff and melee creation has to be the Octagon 2.
Mm-hmm.
What I think they put on with the Octagon and the Octagon 2, and of course, Golden Guardians Jeopardy, I think has been pretty amazing. So let's get into this. Do you guys have any thoughts on what we saw recently? Just like, I think that what was put on was some pretty amazing sets. So I really want to pick your brains about what we saw.
I can go first if that's fine. I always love going first on this. Ambi, is that okay with you?
Go ahead, dude.
I love it. Okay, so first off, I just want to say it's wonderful having PP on the show. PP, I may as well tell you this. One of my favorite memories was actually going to the Super Bowl, and then after the Super Bowl, watching Apex 2015 in the hotel room immediately afterwards. So that's a memory that stands out in my head that I wanted to share with you on this wonderful
Constant rush. I love it, man.
Yeah, it was one of my favorite days. Just under getting engaged and married. But anyways,
okay, that's fair. Good
back
priority.
To the Octagon 2. I love exhibition style events in Melee. I think there is something so hype. So, not necessarily even old school, but I just think that there's a place for a well-produced, high-effort, fuse slate of matches. I think it just has a very different vibe behind it. I think it's different than watching a super major all day. I think it's different than the kind of anticipation that goes into even just like a regional event. I think there's something so much more deeply like personal and even like intimate to an extent of just having like 4 to 5 matches, a lot of sketches. It's like in between what Summit provides for the scene, but also what the Salty Suite used to provide at majors. So I really liked the event. I think the sketches were very funny. I loved the amount of effort that went into the production, and I loved the sets. It was just really fun, and I would love to see this kind of thing be a more common mainstay of the scene.
Yeah, I think the big thing that jumps out to me is just that Golden Guardians really killed it on the field, as they say. I think they all won their sets, and PP had some great commentary throughout the entire event.
Thank you.
I thought it was great.
Definitely seemed a little rigged. Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, in so many words, I think it maybe Ginger was trying to sell something by having his reverse 4-0, as they say.
It's like, I don't know why Zain is playing Zuppy. I feel like this one's a little mismatched, but okay. No, I think it was super cool. And what I want to hear from you, PP, is I want to hear like what's the Golden Guardian side of this? And they've been like really, really cool with Melee on a level that I don't know if we've really seen from like a new organization, especially one that's big in a long time. So like, what is it like on their end for how they support Melee, or for like, are they asking anything of you guys? Like any ideas? I want to hear like about that aspect of it.
Yeah, sure. For making the event, they try to have everything come together really quickly, and they have a pretty big staff. I think we only had one big meeting about it, and then they just let production just go to work. They had the people that they knew they wanted to work with, bring the ideas, come to us, and have all of that happen. But I mean, they've been even Hunter, the main person that's doing the hiring, the head of esports at all Golden Guardians. Like he's always said, you can talk to me about anything you want. We are really trying. We are actually really trying to make an organization and make players feel actually empowered so they can work their best here. Because if you guys are really liking what you're doing, that's going to make the content feel the best and everything else. And if you don't like that, everyone's going to know that's watching, and it's going to suck, and then we're not going to like it. So please be honest with us about this stuff. And they've been really open about it, and it's been really cool. And so I think actually, it was very interesting just to bring him up again, because he had just talked to me I don't know, maybe like a month ago now, and he said, just checking in. You've been with us for a little bit. How are things going? How's the staff? How are the players? How's the content? Is there anything more you want from us? Is there anything more you want us to do? Right. So like this type of open communication, this type of way of being really supportive and really wanting to do things is great. And for Melee, of course, I mean, their director of esports really wanted things to go well. Now, these people weren't necessarily super involved with Melee. They liked Zain. They liked their return on investment on Zain. Who wouldn't? But they also they said, there are other people in the organization. I think one of the video producers is really big into Melee still, for example. There were more people that wanted more, and they said, well, let's try to get more Melee people. We think this community can be really passionate and do things. I think there was some evidence to some of the higher-ups that was the case. They made the pitch to the Warriors, I guess, and everything. The rest is just kind of history, and they've been super happy with how it's gone. So they were really happy with it. I mean, I guess the only thing that they were concerned about, I don't really know how this all shakes out, but the technical hiccups, the stream going down some. But that was the broadcaster, just his computer was overheating, even though it just hadn't happened before. Like I work with this person a ton. It was just really unlucky timing, but they got it fixed. But yeah, I mean, I'm just glad everyone really liked it, and yeah, I really do think it's a good org, and they're really careful about the people that come in and checking in, because I think the communication and just the goals are just so important. And so as long as you're staying on that, I think it's going to be great,
Yeah, and just from our perspective, just as a group that has worked with the Golden Guardians media team, I really do feel like they get it, right? Like I think that they interact with the community really well. They're super easy to work with. They have like the right ideas in mind. So I think that their presence in the scene is very good so far, and I'm glad to see that it's sort of like that behind the scenes as well.
Cool.
Yeah, I know I can speak for me and Ambi. So we did the Melee Jeopardy, as we have already said.
I was not part of this at all.
Edwin was not part of this at all. Dude, we went in. And
why are you clarifying that?
It's important.
Okay. Well, they were great. I'm glad for Melee Stats to do that, by the way. Very appreciative.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm glad for Golden Guardians, because, like, as I was saying, we have worked with other, not big organizations like this, but other things, and usually it's, like, smaller things, and they are pretty close to us, and that's great. And we were so worried about working with what a big organization would be like. And I was like, oh, like, no one's ever going to talk to us. We're not going to hear back. Like, they're going to... No. The hands-on aspect to it was amazing. It's just like any ideas we had, dude, it was such an amazing experience. And I think stuff like that really shows in stuff like the Octagon. Like you can see that direct connection to like care for Melee into just pure entertainment value.
Agreed. Yeah, definitely a really, really well-produced event. I guess the computer overheated because the event was two flames. As
oh, snap, man. Let them know.
I mean, I guess, is this the time we can talk about what were the most fire sets of the night? Edwin, I think you've got a real heater you want to talk about.
A real heater? I don't know what you could be referring to. I mean, is this like is this a Marth joke? PP, I guess we could. Well, this will go into the next segment, but the first thing I wanted to ask you is, what were your thoughts on Ginger-Hbox, like after the fact? During commentary, you were pretty clear about like what you noticed during the set and everything.
Yeah.
But I kind of wanted to hear your thoughts on how you see that rivalry developing, or just like even just Falco Puff in general. I don't know if you like watched the set again or had any other thoughts that you'd want to share about it here.
Sure. I mean, I watched it on stream, but I watch it as like a just chatting tactic, not as like an analyzed tactic on stream. So I don't gain too much more from that. But yeah, I mean, between the two of them, I do. It does seem like, yeah, right, like because Ginger was up so much, it kind of makes me think that like he can pull away really early depending on how much stuff he has prepared, but also, Hbox, Clutch God, all that stuff. I mean, he still makes it happen. I think the experience that he has, and like, I think things like him not streaming during it also probably helped him, and things like that, which can also kind of influence their sets, like for how long he's like, because he'll be streaming for like several hours, and then he'll go to a tournament, and then at the end of the tournament he plays Ginger or something, right? And that's just different in some ways, although I'm sure he streamed for a while before playing Ginger here, so there's still some carryover. But I like that. I like that Ginger brought so much. Because I wasn't sure exactly how things were going to go. But Ginger bringing so many things tells me that he's gonna, like, the more stuff he brings, the more Hbox has to think about, and the more he has to be on his toes for it. Because I was kind of worried about Ginger locking Hbox down, and Ginger did a really good job of that in a lot of ways. And so I think if he's able to clean up, especially some of the ways he handles Hbox's shield, it's kind of interesting, thinking about it, just saying this now, because I think so much of Zain Mango was so much of how Zain managed his shield and out of shield options versus Mango. But I think how Ginger manages Hbox's shield and how Hbox continues to call that sort of stuff out, I think is going to be really important for them going forward.
Definitely. Personally, did you have like a favorite set? I know that you were in commentator mode for a lot of it, but like, did you ever let yourself slip into spectator mode for any of this and just enjoy what you're watching?
Yeah, so for Cody S2J, once the down smash happened, I was all in. I was like, yeah, hit him with another one. I even said that on commentary. I was very unprofessional for that moment. I was like, give him another one. I want it. I'm greedy. And I wanted him to down smash again, but it's fine. He didn't do it, and he still won anyway. What a gamer. But I thought it was. I thought that was a really fun set, very back and forth. I also really. It's hard for me to pick between that one and Nun Moki, because Nun popped off, and I love Nun so much. What he does is insane. He's an absolute crazy person. But I just because of how close it was, and he really just ran across the entire stage and charged the down smash. I just can't believe. And then Cody just had like. He had the desire to make out with the bottom right corner of Dreamland with that DI, and I was very excited for that too. And so it was just everything about it was wild. That moment was very, because it's hard to get me out of commentator mode to get hype, but that did. So that was really good. So I'd say probably Cody S2J, but Nun Moki, there were even more moments like that for me. So it's hard to choose, but because I was there living and I got to be a little bit excited for it live, maybe Cody S2J.
No, we're of one mind on this one. I think Cody S2J is probably the best one, and then if I had to pick a second, it is Moki Nun, which was just this weird. It was like 7 games, right?
Yeah.
This weird 7 games of just like utter destruction, mostly from Nun's end, but Moki had a lot of things, of course, too.
Mm-hmm.
Eric, I want to hear what you think about this, because there's the correct opinion that PP and I have, and then there's the weirdo, whatever. There's I like the Ginger-Hbox set that Edwin has. So I want to hear like where you land on this spectrum.
Well, okay, so it's kind of funny. I'm gonna give a little bit of the centrist answer.
Of course.
I had the most enjoyment watching the S2J IBDW set. But I think that's largely informed by the fact that I'm a Fox player, and I've been spending a lot of time watching that matchup. So like a lot of the things stuck out to me as really fun to watch. I do think that Hungrybox Ginger was a very interesting set. And I do want to talk briefly about the way that the rule set came into play for this set, which I thought was very funny. So you have to think about the fact that the last 4 games, Ginger was up 3-1, and he got 4 counter picks in a row, and he lost all of them. And like the way that the rule sets are that he couldn't just go back to the same stage every single time if he didn't win on the counter pick. So the really fun thing about this is on the last game he had to counter pick himself, right? Like he had to take Hungrybox to Dreamland after he was reverse 4-0'd, right? So I think that it was very funny that like it got to that point and I was like, oh, this sucks. Like poor Ginger. Like this is his counter pick and he's being forced to bring Hungrybox to a stage he doesn't want to play on. I just thought that was like a very interesting little. Like you wouldn't see that unless someone won 4 games in a row, which is like a very fun thing.
Melee's rule set was not built to handle this.
That's true.
This is like some very weird Aiden stupid rule taken to the extreme.
Yeah, one thing I want to mention about Ginger-Hbox is that before the Octagon 2, I did a massive breakdown of all the exhibition matches and predictions on who I thought was going to win. And the first one I did was on Ginger versus Hbox, and despite Hbox being up in their recent head-to-head, I was so sure that Ginger was going to win. So I wrote Ginger technically is the underdog by the head-to-head, but I think in this exhibition set, Ginger's got something to prove.
Oh,
Hbox
I remember you saying
land.
that. Yeah,
I think Ginger destroys him 5-2. And then, of course, Hbox reverse 4-0s him. And then Ambi messages me and is like, Anoke, I think you might go 0-4 in your predictions today. And in the middle of IBW SDJ, I predicted SDJ would win, but it was looking pretty scary. And for a split second, I thought, maybe I'm just not going to predict anything anymore.
Yeah, dude, never bet against Hungrybox. I mean, right now, never bet on Hungrybox. Just like don't bet if Hungrybox is around. Yeah.
And I've said this a million times on the show, and I'm going to say it again. If Wheat says to bet on Hungrybox or not bet on Hungrybox, just do it. Listen to him. This man is
always right.
Yeah, he's literally always right. He's like a soulmate.
It's only involving Hbox. That's the only person I can predict.
Why do you think that is?
I think I've got a soul read on him. I think we're kindred spirits.
That's exciting.
We both probably have the same Radiohead albums on vinyl. That's probably some soul connection.
Same sub count, same pop-offs.
Yeah, of course.
Nice.
Same donations, yeah.
You should have seen Wheat versus Ryfish Game 1 at the Gang 2. It was an uncanny Hungrybox pop-off.
Yes. I apologize to Ryfish for yelling in his face, and apologize to the fans. I did push a couple people over.
He broke his foot kicking a chair.
Yeah. I broke the chair when I threw it into the window, and broke the window too. Actually, a lot of things got broke that set, which I did not win.
Oh, your heart even got broken. Unbelievable.
So, PP, just for reference, the moment when I realized that Wheat is literally never wrong on Hungrybox was before Smash Summit 10. Hungrybox, this was a time when he had dropped a tournament to Dawson. He even lost a game to Ness in tournament. And I was very sure that Hungrybox was just going to get destroyed in his pool. And his pool looked tough. It was none, like Pew Pew, Captain Face Roll. Sunsei, I think, was in it also. It looked very difficult, and I was quite sure. Or at least it looked difficult to me. When I asked Wheat about it, Wheat was like, Edwin, get this weak shit out of my face. You think Pew Pew, Nun, Face Roll, and Sunsei are going to beat Hungrybox? He's going to destroy his pool. He's going to sweep them, and if he doesn't run into Zain or IBDW or Mango, he's going to win the tournament. And
he did run into those players.
Yeah, he did run into
them. Yeah, it was
weird.
Did. He was like 5th seed in that pool, and he won it very easily. It was just like Anoke incredulous.
I was like, how does this man know?
Yeah, this is like stayed on your brain for the entire time. I think you brought this up maybe every single episode of this podcast that we've done.
It's important.
look, I like you gassing me up on the predictions I can make for Hbox, but
Specifically for Hbox,
specifically for Hbox. But speaking of predictions, PP, you made some predictions about what we needed to see from Mango to see a set victory versus Zain.
Right.
What did you think we ended up seeing from that? Did you accurately predict what happened, do you think?
Mango, I mean, one of the biggest things that happened in that set was the thing that because I watched so much of it leading up. No, I could have watched more of it, but I watched a lot of it leading up to doing the analysis for that, and it's the way they've chosen to play the matchup is very strange to me. But the one thing that makes a big difference I've noticed is Zane's out of shield game versus Mango is a very strange, powerful source of openings for Zain. And I have always thought that it's very odd, especially when I went back and watched it more. And so I thought that the out of shield game for Zain was going to be a big deciding factor, and I still think it was. I think Zain, even when Zain would hold shield for a while and he had to light shield for a little bit, and he's like by the edge and he's got basically nothing. He just won't go to the edge. He will find the perfect fair timing. He will convert and he'll kill him. Or if he misses, he's somehow still fine. And I was like, this guy has played Mango so much, he just knows like the timings or knows when Mango really want to wait. And it was very impressive to see that. So that really ended up being a big difference maker for me when I saw that happening. I think that was one of the biggest things, honestly. I mean, there are other things I can pick apart other things if I really want to. It took a little while for Mango to start throwing Zain off his game, like a game or two for that to start happening. But the out of shield just really struck me as it struck me so much when I was preparing the analysis for it. Because it's such to me anyway, it seems like such a weak position for Marth. So for Zain to find all of these openings out of it and it almost seemed like it's like a reliable opening just seemed remarkable to me.
PP, what do you think of the future of like counter picks for Falco Marth? This is something that has always kind of stood out to me about Mango Zain in particular, because, you know, just to be clear, it is a very Zain favored rivalry right now. But one of the things that's really stood out is that it's not because like that Mango can't win on FD or that he can't beat Zain on it. It just feels like he doesn't have a reliable counter pick that he can go to, or that he starts off the set like down early. And I wanted to gauge your thoughts on what the possible counter pick future is for Falco Marth.
Before I talk about that, I read your column on this, and I thought your point about them not playing on Fountain of Dreams in the last year, I didn't know that. I thought that was a crazy fact. So I was like, well, who knows? And the thing about Fountain of Dreams, to just go into that really quickly, Mango used to hate Fountain of Dreams, and they would make fun of it all the time. And then Taffa was like, Mango, you actually went on the stage a lot. And then the next day on his stream, it was the Norwalk people being like, man, this stage is dumb. And Mango was like, actually, I think the stage is okay. And I was like, I can't believe this. Anyway, so then Fountain of Dreams was magically an okay stage. So I every time I think about Mango and Fountain of Dreams, I think of that. And so I think he could probably just do fine there. But I mean, I don't know. I haven't looked at what specifically about stages he abuses to win. So I can't make the most confident prediction on that. Like, I would suspect Yoshi's to be bad for him if I'm thinking about Falco Marth the way I normally think about it. But for them, maybe it's actually good for Mango, because then Zain gets stuck into shield sooner and in more places, and he can't retreat so often, and maybe that's just better. And so maybe that ends up making a difference for Mango. And so like the way they play is really unusual. So I'm not particularly sure. I could, if I want to be one of those people really quickly, I could say, oh well, it's just about who's playing better that day, because he could beat Zain on FD. So like, what difference does it make where they go? So I don't know. It could be one of those types of things too. I'm not entirely sure. I'd have to look at it more to give you a more informed answer. I think I don't think Mango going Dreamland is bad. I think Dreamland should be pretty good. It's going to break. It does, and it will continue to break more of Zain's combos and things like that. So that's always going to be a good thing. and then it's gonna, So I think I think Mango. It's gonna break some of Mango's too, though. It doesn't seem like it breaks as many, but still some. So I don't know how does the calculus on that add up? It gives Zain more chances to play more out of shield things, which seems to go more in his favor. So again, it's strange to think about. Their calculus is very different from the way I've typically thought about it. So I'd have to pay more attention to that to give you a better answer.
That's all right. That was a good answer.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think that's a good answer.
Well, thank you.
I think it's from like that perspective. I think you're right. It's really interesting. Like, we talked about the future of counter picks. How do you see the future of this set happening? Because we've talked about Zain on this show before. We talked about him right now. Like, really tough to beat. I think that the fact that like the scariest players for him probably end up being Mango, someone who's favored over, whatever you want to say, and a set loss here or there to like an S2J is really good for him. We talked about how.
What do you think about Leffen in regards to Zain? I've seen them play each other online, and Leffen doesn't look like he's far behind, or he looks like honestly kind of favored in some of the friendlies. But Zain in friendlies and Zain in tournament, I've kind of noticed are different players.
Yeah, I mean, I have said on the show before that I think in a LAN future, I mean Zain. It's hard to bet against Zain right now.
Oh sure. Oh
but
yeah.
His like the level of play, I think just around him just gets completely better. I think Mango's still scary. Mango doesn't suddenly become not scary. Yeah. We saw them on LAN like this past week.
Mango's Fox may come out.
Mango's Fox may come out, and we get, I don't know what Axe will do, right? Like, we haven't seen Axe a ton on online, but the fact that he is there, even if that, even if Axe is seeded lower and they still play, this is like what happened to Hbox in like 2018, 2019, was that he was getting the first seeds and then running into bad matchups at like 8th seed if it was like Wizrobe or something, and then like 4th seed when it's like Leffen. Like, he was running into issues, and I think that could happen with Zain. We could see him play Axe early in bracket, and then the next person he plays might be Plup or Leffen. Like, he has scary players throughout all.
Yeah, Plup is a good one to bring up as well. Absolutely.
Yeah, I was gonna make the 2018 Hbox comparison as well, because in my head, I'm like ready to like have someone clip this like a year from now and be like, look at these idiots. But I do think that the emergence of a bunch of players on LAN, a lot of them feel to me like just like on a gut level that they could give Zain some degree of difficulty in the future. Like I'm sort of expecting Axe to perform better on LAN. I'm sort of expecting Hungrybox to perform better on LAN. Plup will come back. Like there's like a lot of people that I think could be trouble for Zain in the future. Comparing him to like 2016 Armada levels.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that it's one of those things where like I'd still probably favor him over most of these people, but in a bracket where he'd have to play like a 16 seed, which might be scary, and an 8 seed, which might be scary, like he would have brackets possibly depending on who goes to these tournaments. That it could be like 3 or 4 60-40 matchups in a row, right? Which like at different characters too. Like we saw that take some tolls on Hbox having to play all these different characters and all these different players who he's still favored over, but having to switch between that, I think that could be difficult. But I guess the big question mark for me right now is like, what do you think of Mango in this? Like, he is one of those people who I think always easy to count out. I mean, that's like part of his style, right? Like the kind of laid back attitude. But time and time again, we've seen like one week of SCL every year. We've seen him like make all these adjustments at the right times, and whatever you want to say about Zain's play at the time. When we've seen Mango win, it does really look doable. But I guess I want to like have your opinion. Like, do you think that is doable long term? I think that their rivalry is pretty interesting. So I want to get your take on this.
I think not all, like between the two of them is one discussion, and each of them versus the field is also an interesting discussion, right? So like, let's imagine that Leffen Sheik does give Zain a pretty hard time, but then
Yeah.
Leffen chooses not to go Sheik versus Mango. Just hypothetically, I don't know what Leffen's going to do, but Mango maybe is able to edge out Leffen often enough, and so maybe that creates a different sort of scenario where and if they play a little bit less, maybe that ends up favoring Mango too, right? Just incidentally, like there could be various factors that end up benefiting Mango here, just as a result of everything changing around them, as LAN is a buff to people like Axe and Hungrybox and things like that, right? So, and certain other players like Plup and Face Roll also talking about that a little bit too. And so I think that's very interesting. But Mango's situation is also a very interesting point. I mean, he's now lost to None twice and lost to Wizzy recently.
Mm-hmm.
Many people are starting to ask, will S2J do it? I mean, he's got a lot of the skills that they do, and he's played Mango a ton. What is the impact of that? Like, that is the fact that that's a question now is also very strange. I mean, 2 years ago, this would have been an insane question, and I feel like a lot of people would have dismissed that. S2J, sure, but also just like a Falcon doing it, I imagine. So it's very. This is an interesting time for Mango too. What is the field doing versus him, and how well is Mango going to be able to play off the field and use those advantages in his own favor? And it's kind of interesting too that for both players, it seems like for both Mango and Zain, it seems like Sheik is someone that is a bit of a strange topic for them. I mean, increasingly perhaps Falcon also, although I don't. It's kind of hard to say in Mango's case because at least it's my understanding anyway. So I'm curious. I'm very curious about what the Sheik players are going to do, and Sheik being a character that's had a ton of really weird rises and falls over time. Very curious to see what that looks like. So there, to me, it seems like there's a lot of questions that are really hard to answer because so many things are going to start shifting as LAN comes back. But if I had to, I mean, do I think Mango's someone to count out? If I to actually come back to reasonably answer your question, I don't, because I mean, I think he's just been so consistent like for the past like while now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like he is playing at a really strong level really consistently, and I think he's going to still be doing that on LAN. I think maybe in some ways he even has a bit of a head start over some players that would struggle more online. So I think he's got good momentum going into LAN. Now whether and you know what his Fox does will also help him against Sheik, for example. So I mean, the Fox could be coming in at a very opportune time for him. People said he's been talking about dual maining again. So I think there's some very interesting, like, we can look at this set and maybe the one beforehand or maybe the Wizard thing and like draw some conclusions. But I think if you look at what he's done over a longer period of time, I don't think there's a reason to be concerned. Just because he's not winning all of the time doesn't mean that like there aren't forces around him or even within him that are enabling him to still do some things well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I want to cycle back a little bit to an earlier comment you made about this whole Zain Mango question, because personally, like, I think it's very difficult to project how Zain and Mango will perform on LAN. I think there's a lot of variables that are like all at play here, and like any number of them could dramatically shift the results. But what stuck out to me is you describing the way that Mango and Zain are playing the Falco versus Marth matchup as strange to you.
Yeah.
And I think that's a super interesting comment because I think you have a lot of experience with both of these characters. So I think that like there's a degree of understanding that I'm interested in picking your brain here. Like what sorts of things do you think would be more sensible, or like what peculiarities jump out at you about the way that these two play that you think are have the potential to change in the future?
Sure, I think that's fair. I mean, the way, if I had to guess, I would argue that probably the peculiarity is perhaps a bit more driven by Mango, and Zain is just reacting to that. That's my guess. I don't really know. That's just kind of like what I kind of think is happening because Zain was like, okay, well, this is how I need to play it because this is what Mango's doing. So it's more of a response to that, is my guess. So I mean, it is very different because Mango is really good at knowing when to put pressure on Marth and how to eliminate a lot of things like Marth moving away and counterattacking you, and also trying to encourage and like putting a lot of pressure on so the Marth will also swing. So basically, he tries to do a defensive option because he doesn't want to be in a bad position. So Mango is really good at creating that and creating what comes from that. I don't really have a disagreement with that necessarily. The thing that's strange to me is Mango is often wanting to just try and make a big push. Pretty like he'll change his timing, but he always wants to make a push past that point. And to me, I think that's where a lot of the reversals out of shield come from. Now, the reversals out of shield wouldn't come if Mango was playing a little more like if he was just playing positionally or spacing on Zain or something like that. But he would still be maintaining a good position and not getting reversaled, so he'd still be able to get a hit, in my view. This is a bit of a philosophical thing, I understand, and Mango's been able to win doing it his way, but I find that because Mango is so committed to this strategy that Zain doesn't really need to think about other ways to play around what Falco can do to come in, because he's like, I know he's coming in, and I know he's going to like hard commit, so I'm going to shield. And to me, what I prefer doing in the matchup is either tanking lasers so I can then move more easily, so I have access to dash or jab still, because shielding removes that sort of stuff, but you can still jump if you want. But I also prefer doing things like catching Falco out of the air with some jabs, or trying to maneuver into a position where I can forward smash the Falco out of the air, or react to the startup of the approaching laser that Mango likes to do, and like side B at minimum, or do an aerial or something at maximum to get your best reward, things like that. And Mango makes that very hard to react to, but I would be surprised if Zain couldn't hit that sort of stuff with at least like some reliability, given how well he's able to execute so many things. But I just feel like Zain probably doesn't feel like he has to, because Mango is just committing so hard. So I feel like there are just so many strange ways. And I think it's more rooted in the way that Mango approaches it. So Zain's like, this is just what I feel like I need to do in response. But it's a very different sort of way of doing things. And I would say, so that people don't think this is me trying to malign Mango, I think, a really big advantage of what Mango does is that being able to lock down Marth so much means that you remove Marth's mobility advantage and over Falco. And so I think that's incredibly important. And so to be able to do that with the consistency that he does means that Mango can put the ball in his court a lot to always be figuring out how to outplay Zain from there, and it's a much easier outplay than like having to get there in the first place. So the fact that he's getting there in the first place is really, really good. So I think it's kind of just like making that next step happen for him. And it's not like he's not doing it, right? Like I was talking recently and I was saying the games that Mango and Zain played last weekend, a lot of them were very, very close. The last game in particular, Zain was on by at least a stock, I think, and then he had to really, really claw it back, and Mango barely missed an edge guard, and then Mango stage guards really, really well with the way he gets on the platform and everything, and so Zain had to really outplay him like a couple different times to get the kill and claw that back. So it's not like, and then like if Mango wins that, right, like it's 4-3 as opposed to like the 5-2 finish, and then even if Zain wins there, like it doesn't feel as bad. Like a 5-3 doesn't feel as bad as a 5-2, I think. And the conversation probably shifts a little bit. So it is strange. And I think, it just ended up going more of Zain's way. I don't think that's necessarily a coincidence, but I also think that the way that they play is very odd. And I lean a little more towards Mango breaking that out that way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that was super interesting.
Yeah. So would you say like I guess, like, would Mango versus a lesser Marth, maybe like a top 50, top 100 Marth, would you describe that the same way? Or is it more just Zain's ability? Like, if Mango sets the tone, then it's Zain's ability to keep that up and to play against that. Like, would you call that?
So Mango still does the same type of strategy versus other Marths, but Mango has he's got a pretty good sense of what people are trying to go for. He's got a good sense of timing mix-ups, and the other Marths, it's just very, very uncomfortable to play not only at the speed at which Mango does, but to not be able to move around and dodge so much and to have to win neutral in such a different, often staggered way. Very, very uncomfortable for them. So, I mean, it is very impressive that Zain's able to play from that position so much with such a great clarity and such a great awareness. But I don't think Mango's strategy is that much different. Like, I think he will choose from a greater variety of timings against Zain because he knows he needs to. But I don't think necessarily the core ideas of locking the Marth down and being more aggressive and making sure that if the Marth slips up at all, or Mango even kind of calls out a dashback, that the Marth has to be quite concerned and begin shielding there.
So these have been some pretty great answers to the questions, even before we got to the question segment.
Cool.
So I hope we can keep this whole thing rolling. So we have some questions. This is usually a shorter segment that we were at the end, but every time I talked about this episode to either Edwin or Ambi, it was pick his brain. I got to pick his brain. I got like everyone was talking about having to pick your brain.
I'll do what I can. I'll do what I can.
Yeah, we're running into the last 30-ish minutes of the show, so I think we should do like a kind of a super-sized question segment.
Sure.
So we have some questions from people who support us on Patreon, and if anyone wants to throw questions into the shout-outs to Patreon, patreon.com/MeeleeStats.
Mm-hmm.
Although Tove told me I should just say /
It is /. I haven't needed to correct you on this, but
yes.
Guys, can we just not chill for once?
Oh God, this is the most shilling person. But if you don't, hey, speaking of not shilling, if you would like to put your questions in the Twitch chat, if they're good, we will select them.
Hey, let's go.
And if you subscribe to us and they're bad, we still might select them.
Hey, let's go.
But while we are getting some of those questions together, I guess one I have to ask you, and this is like, don't feel bad about the people who you aren't picking. But are there any players who are on your mind as players who are either had a big improvement or are going to improve greatly? And this can be at any level. It could be a top 20 player who you think is going to continue to be good into a top 10 level, or it can be like a player outside the top 100 who might be, top 50.
I mean, every time I get asked stuff like this, I always want to shout out my boy Kadoran.
Dude, I knew it. I had a gut feeling.
That's fair. I mean, we've worked together for years, man. But even before I came back to streaming and everything, we were talking on Smashboard. So we go back at this point. I did another session with him just yesterday, actually. So I'm invested. I'll say it. I'm biased. I'll say it. But I think what he's been able to do, I love it, and I think he's really hungry, and I think he's still got a good attitude for the game. And he showed more growth after we worked yesterday, so I don't have any reason to start doubting. So I'm riding the Kadoran train, at least for now. I'm rooting for him.
Definitely a lot of Kadoran fans affiliated with Melee Stats, so that's a great pick.
Okay, cool deal. Good to know I'm not getting booted from the pod just yet.
So one question that we got from the podcast,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is a particularly fun one we got from Mott Money, who's a New Jersey Fox player, and the question that he wanted to know is, between 2015 and now, what are the sorts of things that you think you need to work on to facilitate your return to the top level?
Yeah.
Like what things have been different between 2015 and now that you think you would need to work on?
I think I can sum most of it up in 2 words: Uncle Punch. Everyone and their dog can ASDI a bunch now, and they also tech like monsters now. But I feel like luckily there's a mod that helps with that, so it's not too bad. Because I feel like neutral is relatively similar. People just hold down a little more now, but it's not like they weren't holding down back then, so it's not really like it doesn't freak me out. And then I think there are some other things, like there's specifically labbed like laser counterplays for Falco, or there's specific there will be things like people abusing a very specific type of way to beat certain fairs, as Marth using crouch cancel, and like those are new, but I'm aware of them. So those aren't really like text; those are just like things to be aware of, right? And so the fact that I already kind of know it's there, and like I'm watching all this stuff, like it makes me feel okay about it. So again, as far as like things that I would really need to practice or grind out, I really do feel like it is largely Uncle Punch stuff. That being said, if I want to talk about a couple other things, for Falco, this is not something that's required, but it's something I want to do. I want to do like more down air tech chasing, just like in the middle of the stage, because I typically only do it on platforms or at the corner of the stage. But I think there is untapped potential for Falco to do better tech chases in that way, and I think it would also body those people that just love holding down, and that would be very satisfying to me. And but the other thing for Falco, which is not about bodying people that hold down, is being better on the edge. And I don't mean edge dashing. I don't like. Yeah, it would be better if I did that a little bit better. It's more about refreshing, because I find that the main problem, and also kind of faking it. Like I don't really know if how good Falco's hack stash is. I know he has one, but it's like way harder than stuff like Marth's. So if I were better at faking, getting on stage to get those foxes to all hop off that stupid side platform with that stupid back air, that's like way too hard to deal with. I could do more things, and so if I could just manipulate them there more and do better refreshes and stuff like that, I would be stronger. So that's one thing I need. I know, and I'll be looking at that. For Marth, I think it's much simpler. I think the answer is just get pivot controller, learn easy method to do that, and I'm probably good.
PP, I have a question from Daily Stats patron Johnny Gamble. I'll keep it short. He's asking, PP, is there a specific innovation or development outside of the punish game in Marth that you have noticed in recent times? So this is your chance to like gas up your Golden Guardians teammate, I guess.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you're talking about if it's outside of punish, I mean, there's a little bit of stuff like that Zain will do to pressure someone's shield with his edge cancels that I think is really good. When Zain was coming up, I hated that he edge canceled all the time. I was like, why are you doing this? Get on the floor, you silly man. But now when he does it, he'll do it in a lot of really effective ways, like with the shield pressure on people on platforms, which I think is really cool. So I like that. It's not something that happens a lot, but when it comes up, I'm like, ooh. So I think that's cool. Empty pivoting in neutral is kind of neat, so I think it just comes back to that as well. I think that's a little bit more common. There could be some other things, but yeah, I'm trying to think if there is anything else like really. I kind of come up with a blank. I think the thing about Marth is he's such a straightforward character. He just has big sword and he moves and his dash is wild, and he just be grabbing people across the level and they die. I think that's just not really going to change that much. It's not like Spacies where there's all kinds of like crazy tech and stuff that'll come out. Like it's a little different for Marth. He just be doing the good stuff.
Nice. So these questions are hard to find just because there's so many fun people in our Patreon exclusive Discord chat, and there's so many people who are talking about all this fun stuff. But I was able to find a kind of a fun question. So it's about coaching. Like, would you ever consider coaching from the other aspect? So, like, you receiving coaching instead of you providing coaching?
That's an interesting question. IBDW Cody has talked to me about not really doing that, not partaking in it in that way, but because I think he also views playing me as beneficial for him. But he has reached out a few times, much more recently on Friday, quite persistently, and he said, "This is not to malign Cody. I love Cody, but he was a
the
little
first
bit more,
guest we've had."
Oh, cool deal. Yeah, he was. That's great. I mean, I'm sure he had a lot of insightful stuff to say. He's a very smart guy. But yeah, he was more insistent on Friday. He said, I really think it'd be beneficial. I really think it'd be good for both of us to be playing more, even if it's off stream. There are things I can tell you about current meta that can like get you great value very quickly, and then I would benefit greatly. I being him, and as he's speaking, I would benefit from thinking about or working around your neutral. And so I said, okay, well, so I plan on doing that at some point. I don't really know when, but that is the extent of what I've thought about with that. In the past, I used to get a lot of input from Cactuar, and so I'm not opposed as a top player to receive coaching. Everyone saw the thing that was about the guys, and I was one of the guys, and the guy under the waterfall taught one of those guys, and I was him. Okay, so right, like I'm not opposed to coaching. I'm not opposed receiving coaching. I just, I need to make sure. I need to see how I feel about the sources of it and things like that first. And Cody feels like IBDW feels like a pretty safe source of some information in that regard for me. But it also seems like I'm able to be beneficial to him. So I don't know if you call that coaching or whatever, or like we're both coaching each other. I don't know what you call it anymore, but it seems helpful, and that seems good. So if someone else comes along and wants to do something, maybe. I don't know. I'm not necessarily opposed. I'm just I'm learning as much as I can, and when I feel there's a source that I'm really wanting to learn from, I go for it.
I just want to say, when you were talking about IBDW earlier and talking about what he was bringing up to you, I couldn't help but hear it in his voice, and it was just cracking me up.
Dude, he got in your brain.
Yeah.
But yeah, shout outs to Cactuar, the first person from Smash who I've ever met in real life. We were at, cool. We were separately at a cheesesteak place in Philly, and I took his order by mistake.
Oh.
And he was like, I think that's mine. And I was like, are you Cactuar?
I'm sure he loved that.
Dude, I almost ran into a very random, I don't even know if he was PR'd at the time. I saw him somewhere at a beach town one time in Jersey, and I thought it'd be really funny to be like, hey, are you this person? Because as like a top player, I'm sure you get it. I'm sure people get it. Like, you know, you hear those stories about like, oh yeah, I went to Chipotle and the cashier recognized me.
Yeah.
But I think as someone who's like borderline PR level in your state, I think it's so hilarious to be like, hey, are you this person?
Oh yeah. Yeah. You got to start somewhere. I think like there's so much more clout in the scene now, right? Like there are people that back in the day, if like back in the Brawl days, if you weren't Mango or M2K, you didn't have a shot, no shot in the world at getting recognized anywhere. But even if you were, you still had you're still hoping for the absolute best. But that was your best shot. And now, right, like I feel like it can happen to TOs, it can happen to, a lot of players that aren't even top 100 but have a good brand, right, or whatever. Like it could probably happen to Samox, right? Like it's just there's so many more people that, and I mean, the clout giveth and the clout taketh away, right? But like it's still cool that it's there, and like the opportunity for people is kind of neat,
Well,
Edwin got recognized once.
Hey, let's go.
Yeah, I got recognized by my spouse's best friend's fiance recognized me. And
Nice.
was like, "Oh, you're Edwin Budding," and I immediately messaged the Discord. I was like, "Guys, I've made it."
You didn't even respond to that person and realize you're like,
well, what I was going to mention is that we shouldn't overstate it, because it's definitely like only us and kind of like our small group of people would ever see like Cess at a major and be like, "Oh my god,
it's Cess.
It's Cess."
I totally
funny.
remember when you took that game off of Leffen.
Dude, it's funny if it's at a tournament, like when I went up to Wassabi and at the Gang 2 after a few sips of Faderade, and I was like, hey, didn't you get JV5 by Sun? It's funny. It's funnier if it happens outside of a tournament.
No, that story's even worse, dude. You can't just say it that way, because that just sounds mean. You ask Wassabi if he got JV5 by Sun and then still won the set. And then Wassabi said, "No, I lost the set."
"Oh my gosh!"
It was me saying, "Hey, do you remember that set where you got JV5 but still won?" He said, "No, I lost that."
Oh, snap.
I would have had match.
I think you had him confused with Black Chris. I think Black Chris got JV5'd and won the set.
I
Let's go,
don't
Black
think
Wrist.
that's the case. I'm sure that happened, but I definitely just misremembered what happened. Also, a note. I think you got recognized twice, didn't you? Wasn't there something at like a Dallas airport or something with
What?
bananas? Wasn't?
No, no, I got recognized by DFW. That I know, but it wasn't
What's the
at a
story
Dallas
again?
airport. It was just
What's
at
the story?
It was at Big House, I think. No, wait, no.
I remember the story.
I got recognized somewhere else, but I do have a funny Dallas story, DFW story, but it happened at the Big House.
Mm-hmm.
Should I tell it or not even?
Please,
bother?
yeah.
Okay.
I have a specific retelling in my head, so I'll see if it fits with what you have.
Okay. So, at the Big House 7, I get there. I'm ready for an awesome weekend with my friend Ambi Sinister, KB, and everyone else we know. But I'm alone at the airport. I don't see any Smashers around until suddenly I notice Banana and a couple of Dallas Smashers, right? And
Singular banana.
The idea of calling
did I
it
say
banana.
banana?
You
Why
said
did I say-
banana. It
I
was
see
so
banana. No, I see bananas in a group
Clipped.
of Smashers that I recognize from DFW, just from a few streams or whatnot. And I think to myself, you know, like, we're both probably waiting for a bus to take us to the airport. So why don't I pretend I'm not a Smasher and I ask them like what they're doing in Detroit, like, you know, just to make conversation, ask if I can wait for a bus as well. And I go up to them, and one of them has a Big House 7 shirt. And I was like, hey, what's the Big House 7? And I just play this whole like act of like not of like pretending not to be a Smasher, or, like not being familiar at all. And the guy's like, oh, the Big House 7? It's a Melee tournament. And you can see kind of like the light shine in his eyes, and he's like all excited to talk about Melee, like, oh, this is to like someone that's never played Melee before, like this is incredible, like this is my time to make the scene look good. And at the end of like 5 minutes or whatever, when he and his friends are explaining to me about Melee, I was like, no, I'm just kidding, like I'm a Melee player also. I write like weekly articles and everything for Melee Stats. And they're like, oh yeah, like I know your stuff. And I told Ambi afterwards.
Clout.
I told Kay, and they were like, that was the stupidest story I've ever heard.
It's just like
And
the
Ambi was
weirdest
like,
thing
why
you
did
can
you
do.
that?
It's like play dumb, and they're like, "Aren't you Edwin?"
You got him,
Hey,
man.
what's
you trolled
this
him.
here?
You trolled him.
Melee.
I just loved the smile on that guy's face. Like
That is
this-
beautiful.
Like this
That is
was his
beautiful.
time to make the scene look good to someone who like he was. It's almost like he had the speech like prepared, you know.
Mm.
Anyways, I'm sorry.
Well,
So we have a
story.
fun question that I wanted to bring up.
I think I know
and
which one
it's-
this is.
Yeah, so Mewtwo King, you and Mewtwo King have a fun history and a set history which is relatively lopsided, some would say.
Okay.
So we did get a question in our Patreon asking if you had any insight on why you would beat M2K so badly.
Just for reference, PP, this is like a running gag among our friends that like I'll bring up every couple of weeks or so. I'll deliberately message like Eric or Wheat and be like, God, PP Mewtwo was so lopsided.
So there's no you guys aren't talking about anything. You just start with that.
there's a few different things. This is mainly an Edwin thing,
yeah, it is, to
where
be
you'll be
fair.
going about your business, and then every couple of weeks he'll just message you something out of the blue, and it's usually the same stuff. Every 6 months, we message and say that Armada would still beat everyone.
Mhm.
I don't know why we do that.
It hasn't happened in a while though.
It hasn't happened in a while. Maybe we don't believe it. Maybe I'll message you. And we get the PP thing. I get a lot of Sopranos stuff. I don't ask about it, but I get a lot of that. Yeah.
Okay,
He
sure.
runs through a cycle of a couple things and just kind of like just cold DMs people with this.
Wheat doesn't get the political stuff. Ambi gets all the political stuff. Ambi's like
I don't know why you sent it to me.
Okay.
All right. Well,
Everyone
I think
in
we're
Melee
talking
Stats
about
has their
PPMD,
extra
okay.
role. Yeah.
Yeah,
So your question is why did the sets go the way they went so often? I mean, I've talked about this some before. I'll try and change it a little bit so it's like a little bit fresh for people still. So M2K, this is not really news, but M2K likes doing things the way he likes doing them, and he doesn't like doing anything else. And there are just certain things that he really likes to do, at certain times, and he just wants to do that. And I think I get comfortable in a particular routine too, not to the same extent M2K does, but I think because I have that sort of thing in me, I can understand why that makes sense to him. And so it's very comforting to play someone and you're like, okay, even if this stuff is kind of hard to do, if I know pretty much when it's going to happen, I'm going to be all right. And so he would just do the things and I'd be like, okay, yep, this is the thing because this is what he likes to do. And then, you know, because you also know that M2K likes to analyze, you're like, okay, well, there might be some new things. We just bring the new things in, and then those are his those would be his comforts on the additional stuff. And then so it just, the overarching theme is some things will change, but the main feeling, the main way to go about stuff stays the same. And my own way of going about things, like, is just in just a certain way, just makes it hard for M2K. So I mean, you know, like you can you can take all kinds of solutions, right? Like you can make it confusing for him if you want to play like Mango and he's just like, well, I'm not sure what to do because I'm just not sure what this person's doing, or like KDJ or whatever. Or you could be me and you could be like, well, why overcomplicate it? I know pretty much what's going to happen. I'll just beat that. Like it's like you think of it. Actually, think of it this way. M2K said, "I always beat Asin because he was going to do the best thing, so I'm just going to be one step ahead of that." Instead, you could just switch the roles. Like I'll be the M2K, he's the Asin or whatever, right? Like there's a lot of ways you can answer it.
M2K to M2K is what
yeah,
you're
yeah,
telling me.
Yeah. Sure, run it.
Who would win, M2K versus M2K?
Tough question. I feel like that matchup happens a lot, and it's hard to call.
What's your favorite beatdown of Mewtwo King?
Like that I did, or someone else, or what?
No, that you did.
Oh, and then of someone else, and then just favorite beatdown.
There's a lot of sets where like you 3-0 him, and it's really ugly, like 6 or 7 minutes.
Yeah, there have been some fast ones. I will say I didn't like any of the ones where he got really, really sad. Those are not fun because I don't like making people sad. That joke sucks. But so that eliminates a lot of the older ones. But a lot of people talk about the Apex 2014 one, but I've always been partial to the Skatar one because I just succeeded in so much stuff beforehand. And then it was kind of like just the beautiful cherry on top. It's like we just get to go for the M2K merry-go-round, the yeehaw, the downward slope at the end of the roller coaster. It's just a good time for me. And so that probably is it for me, like as I think about it quickly. But yeah, that was like just to cap all that stuff off. It was fun. But I mean, you know, I'm sure if I like I still liked the Pound 5 one, even if it did make him sad, just because that was like the first time it was as strong of a win there, and I think it meant a lot to, like, of my development of a player to bring so many things together to be able to contain M2K that well. So I mean, there are things I could talk about with that. It's also kind of up there for me, but he was big sad afterward, and so that's not going to that ain't it for me, Chief, as they say.
We have a great question from Chape. I don't know if you're familiar with Chape, but he's a beast. He's like the best player in South America at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Maybe I forget if I've run into them on ranked or not.
You have played. He's.
Have they played? That's cool.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Chape asks, how should top players from regions that don't have access to top 100 or higher talent practice in order to be able to improve and make the splash to that level of play?
Chape, you got to gas up your region a little more, man. You guys are good.
No,
They're good.
I will say, I don't know how hopeful he does feel about it, but Eisengo Bay came out to Apex 2014 and did phenomenally well after not coming to anything beforehand. So I think you know, it is possible and it can be done. So I hope he's got his head held up about that. But yeah, so practice. I think if you practice like everyone else, but you're not able to apply it like everyone else, you're gonna be missing out, right? So I think, unfortunately, because of your circumstances, you have to go the extra mile and try to become more detailed in your practice. So something I think about more. It's like if I imagine myself in that scenario, you probably have people to play with, but instead of like them being able to push you all the time, it's more one sided. But maybe these players still want to improve. So something you could do is you can either teach them as much as possible, say, okay, this is what I'm doing to beat you, this is what you could do to beat that, or you can just kind of cut a lot of that stuff out. If they don't want to learn that way, you can say, do this, either a general thing or do this at this time. This is hard to beat. And so you are practicing against these meta options you see in videos. And so when that comes up, you're like, okay, well, this is a way to handle that. There are other things like there are other ways to practice. Like if you're trying to say shadow box or something, I bring that up every once in a while. There are ways to move around such that you feel as if you are interacting with someone, but the player is much more interactive than anyone you will ever meet in a match. So they're adapting much quicker. They're threatening you with much more things like that. And then something happens and then you're back in the interaction again, and instead of like having a break for punish or something. So that was very useful training for me to get used to adapting quickly and reacting more quickly, even though there was not another person on the screen. That may or may not be useful for you, but yeah, there could be other things like, I mean, there could be things where you could probably even record yourself, even just doing your own practice. And you could say, if I do not do 100% of, like, I tell a lot of people, shoot for 100%, but if you're getting like 95, 98% of what you're going for, you're probably fine, especially even if you're a high level player. But if you say, I will not rest until I can do absolutely 100% of whatever I sit down to do, you may have to be a person that has to go for that, because you have to say, I will need to lean on my tech, because I'll have to be thinking so much more of how I'm trying to beat people out in the game. So I want my tech to be as flawless as possible. I want to be as safe on shield as possible, or as quick out of shield as possible. There are things you can do to set that up and make sure that's always possible. You need to be like, another way to look at it is, low tiers always have, like, everyone has good DI, but low tiers have absolutely insane SDI and stuff like that because they have no choice. So this is the equivalent of that. Like, do maximize every advantage you have because you have no choice, and then that's gonna pay dividends for you when people are maybe even gonna be underwhelmed or something. They're gonna like they don't know you, and they're not gonna respect you or something. You surprise them, and then you are consistent with tech or something like that, and then that can really work out for you. So I don't know the one answer, but I know roughly the philosophy that can really help with that.
Nice. We're kind of running to the end of the episode. I don't want to keep you on for too much longer. You've already been so gracious with your time that I don't want to take any more of it. We probably have time for like one more question. Do you guys have anything fun?
The human element bit that you've been running recently. We still haven't done that.
We're gonna do that. We're gonna do that, okay. and then we'll get, before that we'll get one more in. We've got someone in chat who's been asking a question, even redeeming points for highlighted message. That maybe not the most melee stats question.
If somehow this is about the Rick onesie, I don't want to answer it.
I don't know what that means.
Good. Okay. I'm not even gonna. I'm not bringing that into here. I'm not bringing that into this world. Forget I said anything.
All right, well, now you got to tell me afterwards. No. This is from a Twitch chatter, a waiting for gamer, if you will. If you could see any character modded into Melee, who would it be, and how do you think they perform competitively? So Edwin and I, on our weirdo post-COVID episode where we just shot the shit for a while, including talking about which Breaking Bad character we'd be. We talked about modding a character.
Insane conversation. It was like we were having two different conversations.
No, we weren't listening to each other. It was like two different people were improving.
Wait, so was it just you two? The whole episode?
Just us,
literally just us.
Oh, we had like a fever dream episode of just like, what do we talk about now?
Yeah, it was I think it was like waiting for Godot, let alone
waiting for Godot.
Waiting for game, more like waiting for Godot. Yeah, well, we were talking about like James Bond and that one schoolgirl detective that they were like thinking about. But I guess like I don't know, just a fun question you don't have to think too much into. Who would you want in Melee? Without thinking about the larger implications of like, would I be a Master Chief main or whatever?
Yeah. I mean, my Discord profile picture is Sora. I love the character. Sora. Yeah, I mean, I'm There are not many series that I'm still into at the ripe young age of 30, but I do like Sora. I hope I know it won't happen, but I wish they wouldn't pull him from Kingdom Hearts 3. That game was a little bit different than the rest of the series.
It was bad.
I mean, I honestly don't think it was bad. I think a lot of things they did a lot of things that were fine. They could have done a lot of things better, but I don't. Maybe I just love it too much to say that. But I genuinely don't think it's bad. But I'm not going to sit here and say it's good either. So I'll also say that. But I do like how much he cares about things, and that's like his strength, and that's dope to me. But I also think for the comedy factor alone, Waluigi would be hilarious.
Nice.
Oh, not Waluigi.
I don't
love
agree.
Two types of reactions.
I would want him not in it, but
you
nice.
said nice. There's a nice and there's a not anything but Waluigi, and that's the two reactions. I love it.
Dude,
Yeah, I don't think
so
PP's a pro Waluigier, but I think he's a pro Waluigi polarization.
Why are you saying Waluigi?
All chaos all the time.
Luigi, he would be the lamest character. He would be like Dalzim, but with Luigi noises.
That is really funny.
I'd be so sad.
Dude, I think it's so hilarious that, if you were to ask like any casual fan of Smash, since probably Brawl, who should be at it, I feel like the normal answer is Waluigi, and I think it's so hilarious that they haven't done that. I love when you have like these entities, these like IPs out there who've got like very clear fan base who like has a very clear thing they want, and they just don't do it forever. I love that.
The Geno thing, right? Like Geno, they wanted Geno for Brawl. They kept trying to get him in, and then the Bayonetta vote was probably the funniest thing I've ever seen, because everyone was like, finally, we can just make them put Geno in. Please, band together, community, this one time, and they wouldn't do it, and it was the best.
Geno's hilarious because I guess maybe in 2007 or 2008, maybe there was a slight chance of him being included, but I feel like ever since then, people are like, Geno has to be an Ultimate because he was once considered for Brawl. It's like not on his like standing on his own merit. It's just like 10 years ago, we thought that he might be in this, so now he has to be in this new one.
The problem is everyone is so young now, like that's going to be playing Smash. They like don't even know. They're like, why do people want this person that came in one game on this one system one time? Like, who cares?
It's
like
hilarious.
I saw memes about that, and I was like, oh my god, I really am 30. Like there are just Zoomers now that are going to vote in this that don't know Geno, and I was like, I can't handle this. This is crazy.
Ambi and Wii, what are your choices then?
For a new Melee character? Oh, I don't know, dude.
Yeah, this is opening quite a Pandora's box before we're supposed to end.
So if you want my actual opinion, I was super hyped for Meta Knight when Brawl came out. I was like, dude, Meta Knight is gonna be so cool. I can't wait to play Meta Knight. And then Brawl was Brawl, and Meta Knight was Meta Knight, and I'm like, well,
you were a big ban advocate, weren't you?
I mean, we banned him in Melee, so fat. I don't know what the rule set is now, but the MBR actually, while Brawl was debating on it, we did come together as part of our rule set vote. Do we ban Meta Knight or not? We did ban him in Melee, and it was so funny because we have held that stance since like 2012. We are unmoving. Meta Knight has stayed banned. Let's go Melee. But yeah, in Brawl, I really think it would have been better for the game. I do.
Dude, we're opening so many cans of worms right before we're trying to end the episode. I will say, one time I had a dream that Crobat was in Melee, and when I woke up, I was like, how did I not remember this? I was like, I feel like I would remember. He had like a really good nair, I remember.
Yeah.
So I would say Crobat.
He would get his wings in and spin, right?
Yeah. He had multiple jumps. He had a really good nair. And then I woke up and I was like, it's like when you're still kind of in the dream. I woke up and I'm like, Crobat, yeah.
That kind of sounds like Meta Knight. That sounds like Meta Knight, bro.
Okay, we're getting into Meta Knight.
There is a little ball. That's just Meta Knight, bro.
So just really quickly, I want to give my answer. I know you might think that it's the Master Chief, but when I play Samus in Melee, I already call her the Master Chief as my secondary name. So I'm going to go with the Arbiter. But instead of having like a plasma rifle or whatever, he has an energy sword. So we got another sword character in Melee. That's all.
Just what we need.
Great. Well, we're not all Melee. We had a very fun short segment on our episode of the June Bug where we talked about what we've been into recently that's not in Melee. We are people outside of Melee. So I will start. As tempted as I am to say the grapefruit soda Squirt, which is the first soda that I've had in 6 months. Not a big soda guy, but I was like, hey, Squirt! And I bought it. It was good. As tempted as I am to say Squirt, I will have to go for a YouTube series, because we are YouTubers, apparently. If you put out a video every 6 months, you're a YouTuber.
Let's go.
A YouTube series from GeoWizard, who is the main guy. If you want to watch GeoGuessr playthroughs, first off, click any of those videos. They're all very entertaining. But he pivoted his content at one point, a year or plus ago, to be randomly do stuff live. And he is currently uploading his series of trying to walk through Scotland in a straight line. So he tried to
that
do
with
this.
the UK, I think. He already did that.
He did this with Wales, Norway, and I think there might have been another one. But he's trying to do it with Scotland, which is the longest one yet. So I think we've got 2 videos of that series up at the time of this episode. I think they're great. I would highly recommend watching those. Or just watch his video with Ludwig. I haven't seen it, but
when those two are together, it's so funny. I think they did one where GeoWizard closed his eyes and Ludwig had to describe the surroundings, and GeoWizard, I didn't see the first time, but the second time when they started, GeoWizard was like, you've gotten better, it's not completely horrible now. Ludwig was like, thanks.
All right, well, I don't want to steal all the GeoWizard time. Anyone else have anything fun that they've been into recently?
So I've started going back to the bouldering gym that's in my town. I'm pleasantly surprised that I've only lost 2 letter grades on the V scale. So I've been climbing V3s and stuff, which is pretty exciting. Just really happy to be able to move around. I haven't really had that many excuses to get up and do stuff. But now I'm able to be more active because the climbing gym is open, and I have a reason to get up and not be just sedentary the whole day. So I've been feeling really good. I haven't been playing much Melee because my hands are killing me. But it's cool to be able to climb again. Really happy about that.
All right, Anok, you have to do this in 30 seconds. I'm worried that this might be a political rant. I'm worried that you might...
No, it's not. Or not really.
A little tiny bit.
So I don't typically play that many other games, but lately I've been replaying the Mass Effect series through the Legendary Edition, and I think it's really interesting. It's just it's a good bit of sci-fi. I played it when I was a teenager, and I really loved the series, and I wanted to revisit it for nostalgic purposes. And I think playing it as an adult, it actually feels a lot more magical. I wouldn't say the writing is particularly stellar, but I think the amount of content in the game is really good, and I think that there's just a lot of interesting stuff they do in the world building in terms of the development of different species in the universe, how they interact with each other and everything. And I think obviously because I take writing and storytelling a lot more seriously now, I can sort of see the holes in the series, places where I would have written differently, or me and my friends would have gone a different idea, or I can definitely see that there's still tropes in the genre that go a bit that are a little lazy, but on the whole I've just really enjoyed playing it, and I think it's very fun. I love the world of Mass Effect, and I've just been really having a blast playing it.
Nice.
All right, what you got for us?
All right, so I have different answers. I like Ambi. I've been running lately. It's been fun. There are other things that I've been into, but there are things that I could highlight that are great. These little boxing gloves that I got from the boss. Sick.
That's what I'm talking about.
It's super
Melee,
cool.
it doesn't count.
Right. So, but I will unfortunately and regrettably highlight something that I was excited for, but unfortunately did not come in clutch for me, but it is kind of funny. So it's this Swedish toothbrush. It was $160 and it broke. broke so fast.
No.
But it was great while it wasn't that great while it lasted because it didn't work as well as it could have. But it was funny, and so there was that the cover was hard to get off it to charge it like this little thing here. It opens, but I had to have someone open it like they had tweezers and I didn't. So, but yeah. Anyway, the Foreo Issa 2, don't get it. I don't know what they're doing over there in Sweden, but not making toothbrushes. I'll tell you that
just
right
don't
now.
buy anything from Sweden at this point.
Yeah, maybe don't.
Can't be too safe.
You know what you gotta do, PP? You gotta reach out to Cardano in Austria, and you gotta tell him that you need a custom toothbrush.
Dude, I bet Cardano has the sickest toothbrush
Yeah,
in
that's
the
what I'm
world.
saying.
Oh my
Perfect
God.
snapback on the toothbrush.
That man had his own deodorant or something.
Yeah, he
He
was selling
does.
deodorant, and I think Toph was plugging it because he was like, it doesn't smell weird, it doesn't stain clothes or whatever. It's cheap.
Yeah.
It was funny.
I have looked into that. It's like wonderful names like Tangerine Tango or something, and then Masculine 2.
Masculine 2 is a vibe.
Tag yourself, I'm Masculine 2.
The sequel, bro. The original was so good they had to do another one.
They had to upgrade Masculine.
I think Masculine 2 is better than Masculine 1. Well, PP, you've been such a joy. I'm. This is such a great experience. I'm so
This was
glad that
fun.
you've been on.
This was fun.
Hit us with some stuff that I know you're streaming. I know you're on YouTube. Hit us with some plugs.
Yeah, I'm everywhere. I'm pretty much PPMD, Patreon, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube. Check out GG Melee. I'm in skits on there. Do stuff with them. Yeah, I mean it's a good old time. I'm just out here doing stuff. We had a variety game vote recently. Untitled Goose Game won, so I'm out here big honking starting tomorrow. Roll through if you're interested in that.
Nice.
Yeah, so it should be a good old time. Otherwise, I do a lot of informative Melee games on my stream. I find people on Unranked and sometimes IBDW, and I will play and I commentate a lot of my decision making while I go very quickly. If you're into that, roll through the stream or the YouTube. But yeah, I mean, that's all I got for you. It was a fun time. I think Melee Stats is dope. What you guys do is awesome, and it was a good time.
Nice. I appreciate it. And now this is Edwin's favorite part of the show. I get to do some plugs. So for Melee Stats, if you want to... oh, dude, I haven't done this in like 2 weeks. Give me a second. Give me a second.
Do it.
You can follow us on Twitch at Melee Stats, twitch.tv/Melee Stats. If you want to watch our long-form content, you can do so on YouTube, our Melee Stats. You can watch this podcast and other little, side videos we have on Melee Stats Archive. You can follow our tweets at twitter.com/Melee Stats Pod. You can read When's Melee and Monday Morning Marth on meleestats.co. And if you want to support us, well, first off, you can sub here. Or you could support us on patreon.com/Melee Stats.
Sign
Not
up
as quick
today.
as I usually do it, but
Sign
we're
up
getting
today,
back there.
They'll double the offer.
Oh, man. All right. Well, this has been such an amazing episode, and I appreciate everyone here for being a part of this. If you want to watch us, we're going to be streaming back to our normal Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. We're going to be doing that next week. I appreciate this little special episode that everyone had, and I'll see you waiting for gamers next week.
See you guys.
Later.
See you guys. Peace.